to the latest episode of Tech Debts. It has been yet another wild week of tech layoffs and tech layoff related news. We're going to cover some of the things that just happened in the last few hours and announcements made in the industry as far as layoffs and reductions. And we'll go into a little more detail on the week of gaming industry layoffs and reductions that unfolded in this past week. And there's just been an ongoing saga in the gaming industry of some pretty substantial reductions, and we'll go back through that. Let's get into it. This was announced just today, within the last few hours. The news was breaking. Fisker, the electric automaker, has announced layoffs, and they've announced a 15% reduction in their workforce. This is somewhat due to moving away from a direct-to-consumer model and over to a dealer-partner sales model. So it's kind of an interesting situation. They are actually kind of reverting back to a traditional sales model and away from the direct-to-consumer model, which a lot of the newer companies have adopted, and companies also like Ford have also discussed moving towards. So kind of curious why that's not working out for them and what they hope to accomplish with a partnership situation. There was a review of the latest model, the Fisker Ocean, which we'll talk about here in a second, by Marques Brownlee on his Autofocus channel. And he had made the comment that he had picked his vehicle up from a Mitsubishi dealership to do that review. So that was interesting. They, I assume, have some kind of partnership or maybe a temporary or loose partnership with them, but it sounds like they're still looking to find an official concrete dealer partner for their business model. They're waiting to secure a partnership, and I believe that's also financial and obviously the dealer partner issue that I just mentioned. But until they have a stronger partnership in place, they're halting development of additional models, according to them and according to their CEO. As Jeff Bezos has said, stock price matters when you need to raise capital. And unfortunately for them, if we take a look at their ticker and let's look at the last week here, we see the giant cliff that they went off as of today, as of this announcement coming out. So not that their stock was particularly strong, but as you can see, it is absolutely in the gutter. And if we look back across the last full year, they've been on a bit of a decline, which is really sad to see. And especially since they've now finished producing their, first, we'll call it scaled vehicle, the Fisker Ocean, which, speaking of, is a big milestone, of course, that they've been able to do that. It seems like the momentum is dying already. In 2023, they produced, I believe it was a little over 10,000 of that vehicle. They've so far delivered 4,700 as of their last announcement on that topic. So I don't know why the big discrepancy there in terms of deliveries, but I could understand that probably correlates to moving away from the direct-to-consumer model and trying to find a dealer partner. So clearly they are just struggling with probably the logistics and the infrastructure needed to not only produce the car, create it, but get it into the hands and have that hand-off experience to a customer, right? So, if your goal is mass production, you're looking at trying to produce hundreds of thousands of vehicles, right? If you're going to be a profitable company. Well, every one of those vehicles in a direct-to-consumer model has to be hand-delivered to each of those 100,000 people, multiple hundreds of thousands of people. So you need a really robust infrastructure inside the company to be able to handle that kind of a logistics, reality. That's considerable. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it. And they've always, struggled as a brand to generate interest. And, I've not quite understood this because they have some pretty awesome products. And the first thing that I ever remember of Fisker, actually, they've had racing teams going back quite a while ago. Like they've had race cars. And in 2010, they released the Karma, which I have some pictures of this, and some of you may be familiar with this car. This thing, I mean, this thing predated the Tesla Model S, right? And this wasn't a mass-produced vehicle. It was still a very specialty built vehicle. But look at this thing. It's awesome. This was an all-electric platform. Had decent range from what I remember. The wheelbase on this thing is super long. This angle is not great, but I saw a few of these around when this came out in a little after 2010 and 2012 and 2013, while they were still producing it. But this thing looked amazing. I thought this thing was phenomenal in terms of the design and just the way it looked overall. Here's a picture of the interior. I mean, how cool is that? Had this like crazy two-tone leather, asymmetrical like leather seating. But yeah, just like a super cool sporty car, EV. Had a solar paneled roof that, would recapture a little bit of energy when it wasn't in use. But super cool. This thing never really took off. It was very expensive. I don't recall the exact, MSRP on this. It wasn't cheap, of course, like most of these sort of, non-scaled electric cars have been. But it's been a wonder what, the struggle is for them as a business and, why they continue to, I don't know, just have issues. I'm glad to see that they've got the Ocean out there, but it sounds like they've got some serious headwinds now. And especially now with their stock price being where it's at, they're going to need some serious partnership to make a turnaround, it would seem. All right, so a couple other quick ones. As of today, March, it's March 1st, Xerox announced layoffs in early January, but now are actioning on them after a letter came out. I believe it was from the CEO. And so those pink slips have started going out. So 3,000 individuals are expected to be fired. I did not see their current global staff numbers, so not sure what the percentage was exactly. But that's obviously quite a few people. They're a global company, but 3,000 people getting fired in any company really is considerable. That's a pretty substantial thing. So they're just continuing to try and reshape their business, but not exactly a household name. In tech these days, one of the bigger, 1990s era, early 2000s era brand, I would say. And like many, similar to like HP as a brand, have just sort of declined since the 90s and 2000s. IBM, again, they also signaled some reductions in their Q4 earnings call. They are now actioning on those here March 1st. They're asking certain EU-based teams to voluntarily resign if they wish. So some of the news on this was a little bit focused on this kind of novel approach to essentially asking folks to self-deprecate, basically, resign. And if you want to just go ahead and be fired, or I should say be reduced from the staff, then you can voluntarily do that. And I mean, I'm assuming it wasn't announced, but I would make the assumption maybe there's some additional perks or benefits to that. Maybe they're throwing a little bit larger compensation, a severance package at those folks or something. But the goal was to try and, I guess, get numbers down with folks who are already wishing to walk out the door versus just arbitrarily picking people who may very well want to stay and, would not want to be included in that reduction. But last little note on this was that 50% of the total reduction strategy is going to impact EU operations. So another 50% are going to impact other teams in other locations outside of the EU. But there were some very specific groups, including HR teams, that were supposedly being impacted by this. And then putting the show together today, came across this video that I thought was interesting. This was from yesterday. And some employees from YouTube Music, the music division inside of YouTube, who were speaking to the Austin City Council. I don't know exactly the topic or the focus, so maybe somebody can comment on this. But I just came across this video, thought it was kind of interesting. And just, again, given the environment we're in right now, this is sort of the way things are going.
In good faith. There are less than 50 of us at YouTube Music, and we're taking two of the largest corporations in the world. So to be supported by the city of Austin and also our allies in the labor community, give us the motivation to keep this fight going.
That's Windra, but they just laid us all off.
Oh.
Yeah, they just laid us all off.
We just all
Our jobs are ended today, effective immediately.
Wow.
I'm sorry your time's expired, but we'll follow up on this. Thank you.
So this was posted, as you can see, on X, and yeah, it was a city council meeting related to some kind of, I think, unionization effort with these employees at YouTube. I am making that assumption. I don't know fully what the context was with this meeting. So not to say that YouTube, was retaliating for some reason, but anyways, I don't know the context of the city council meeting, but a group of employees from YouTube in Austin were at this hearing, and as you heard there, were informed that they were all being laid off. So this just was yesterday, and pretty interesting. All right, let's get into gaming industry. So we had a couple posts earlier in the week here related to the gaming industry layoffs. This has been a pretty significant part of the tech layoff situation this year, and wanted to do a bit of recap and also include a couple updates to things. So, as I wrote here, the industry is not playing around anymore. So far in 2024, more than 8,000 people now confirmed have been laid off inside of the gaming industry. That industry is huge, but 8,000 people is significant, right? That's a massive number. That's like almost an entire company, a large company being laid off or being shut down of one particular, sort of group of skilled individuals with a particular focus. So as you heard earlier in the week, PlayStation fired 900. That was 8% of their global workforce. They're shutting down their London operation completely, or I should say their London studio. And multiple studios are halting production of AAA games. That included, from what I could find, Twisted Metal. They're going to be, or were working on a Twisted Metal online game, and then The Last of Us Online, which is Naughty Dog Studios production. They were in the middle of creating that. That's now been suspended or canceled. Spider-Man, and then there were a bunch of unannounced titles that are now just being ended. And so certainly many of the people from these studios employed by PlayStation and Sony, the hope obviously is, they're able to get put on other projects and things be reprioritized. But 900 of those people are not going to be able to be reprioritized, according to Sony. And then Electronic Arts in this last week announces they're firing 670. A letter from the CEO was posted this week explaining the cuts. So Andrew Wilson, I'll talk a little bit more about him. I have a funny story to share. So he posted this letter on the 28th, continuing to evolve our business and teams. And in the letter highlights the 5% reduction in the workforce. He had mentioned in here as well that, they're going to try and find new homes for some of the employees if possible, or give certain people the options to find, new roles within the company where they can. But that was kind of the gist of this. It was just a lot of CEO speak and very general details as to why they're making the cuts. But 5% reduction there. And then as part of that, the Star Wars Mandalorian first-person shooter game is canceled. And regarding the CEO, Andrew Wilson, I had a very direct interaction with him in, what year was it? This would have been 2013. I worked for a company called PSAV. Some of you may know the company. They do event production, mostly at hotels and resorts. So if you ever go to a meeting or a convention or an event at a hotel or resort, the people running basically the lights, the projections, the audio, the event tech itself is usually a company like PSAV, or is PSAV. I think they're the largest company at this point. So we had an event put on for the EA senior staff, which included Andrew Wilson, and they were in a breakout room, and I got called in there to fix the projector because something was wrong with the projector. Something was going wrong with the projector. And Andrew Wilson was sitting right in front of the projector. It was like a conference table, right? And he's sitting in the middle, and there's like 12 people surrounding him on this, long conference table. And the projector's right where he is, in front of him on this table, projecting, their presentation. So they're all waiting literally on me. I walk in this room. It's him and a bunch of his, VPs and senior people. They're waiting on me to get this projector working. I go over to where it is, which is coincidentally right by him. I didn't know he was the CEO. I had no idea that's who he was. And so I start reaching over between him and the person seated on his right, in between them, to basically start messing with this projector to get it working again. At no point does Andrew acknowledge my presence, even though I am literally over his shoulder reaching. And obviously, that being said, at no point does he make any additional room for me to fix the projector so they could get their meeting underway. It was like a total, just like, you are a peasant, I am not. I am not even going to acknowledge you are here. And it was like the most awkward thing. Like, you just expect somebody to realize, like, hey, this guy's here to do a thing, and I'm right in the space this guy's going to need to work in. I'll literally slide my rolling chair over 5 inches. No, not this guy. So I've heard bad things about him. Obviously, that's not like a horror story about who he is, but I think it's a bit of a glimpse into the kind of person he is. I don't think he's a good person. I think he's a very arrogant type, CEO figure, not the kind. And trust me, after working in that industry, I met many other CEOs, and you get to see the range of personality types in CEOs. And there are many CEOs of bigger companies than EA who are the nicest, kindest people that will just, have any kind of conversation with you. There's just no barrier there or sense that they're, special and you're not. So fun little story about the CEO, Andrew Wilson. That rounds out today's episode of Tech Debts and the ever winding road of tech layoffs. We are now on X, formerly Twitter. And please subscribe here at the Tech Debts channel. I'll be trying to keep things updated here as much as I do here on YouTube as well, and be cross-posting. But also figure this would be a good place for any of you who might have been affected by the layoffs to go ahead and reach out to me here. I'll try to connect with you, and I would love to start doing some one-on-one conversations with folks who have been affected by the layoffs, and just continue to shine a light on the industry, what's been going on here, as I think the anticipation is that nothing is going to be slowing down this year in terms of layoffs and reductions and streamlining and the like. So reach out to me here at techdebtsx.com, and would love to connect. And always, as you see fit, subscribe here on YouTube and like this video if you find it helpful, and I'll continue to be posting shorts and updates throughout the days of each week as these announcements on specific tech layoffs are occurring. Thanks for watching, everybody.